If you want a happy ending, that depends, of course, on where you stop your story. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tiltingground Untitled Notre Dame USC football podcast. I'm Michael Muto. I'm here with Greg Flamong. Hi, Greg.
How's it going, buddy?
This is a sad one, Greg. This is a sad one. This is the season
It is.
wrap up. This is
It is.
it's all over. There's going to be no football for 8 till August.
Yeah.
I mean,
In the books.
there'll be some spring practices and stuff about recruits and here and there, but as official football goes, it's all over.
Another season in the books. Another
And
disappointment.
yeah, another disappointment.
The
Uh,
25th year in a row.
oh man, I don't even know. I don't even know where to start with all this. Actually, I do have a question for you. Now
All right.
that we'll start with Notre Dame.
Okay.
Now that I am more engulfed, I guess, in the Notre Dame culture, I felt like I was pretty, up to date on things before. Did Notre Dame always go with the numbers for their team, or is that like sometimes they do it if it's like a memorable team? They're like, oh yeah, this is, and of course, because this is what team 127, and of
Yeah.
course every team has a number. Like I'm not dumb. Like I know how numbers
Right.
work.
Right.
But like I feel like not every team gets called by their numbers. You as a loyal fan, is that something gets thrown around a lot? And I feel like this team got called Team 127 a lot.
This was the first time that I ever remember.
Oh, good. I thought I was
Yeah.
like
No, they've never been like, oh, team. I don't know who like Team 120 was. I mean, I could look back 7 years ago, but that wasn't the thing.
Okay, because yeah, I'm sure like a team that won the national title, like there's some guys who know what number team that is, but like yeah, I just don't ever remember Team 127 like it's a real thing.
I mean, look, I liked it like when it came out, like, oh yeah, Team 127. In retrospect, I feel like that is the biggest bunch of fake hustles that I've ever.
It is definitely marketing.
It's just like, it was the team concept. It was the whole like Team 127, like we're in it together, we're one kind of thing. Like they didn't do the names on the back of the jerseys for the bowl game, which they normally do. Well, not normally. They started that in like 2008, but like they did it for the national title game against Alabama. So that was a team bit. I don't feel like this team was any closer than any other team. Like I didn't feel like there was like any intangible quality to this team, other than the fact that I guess a bunch of offensive players came in and played well when guys ahead of them went down. But I don't see that as a team thing as much as like they just had solid people behind them.
That's another good place to keep going, I guess, since we already started. So one of my friends actually was talking to me, and he said he saw the Showtime show, and Brian Kelly was going on and on about how this team overcame a bunch. He's like, well, what did they really overcome? And I'm like, well, I mean, honestly, like, unbiased opinion, like, a lot of guys really did get hurt. like, truth be told, I mean, the guys were dropping in the beginning of the season before it even started. They lost their quarterback, they lost their running back, they lost a tight end, they lost D linemen. Like a lot of guys got hurt, and that's got to be hard. And they did it pretty well for a team with a bunch of backups.
I guess if you switched out the words overcome with accomplish, then I think your friend would have had. I think maybe that's even what he meant, like because they did overcome a lot. Like the thing is like teams like Notre Dame who lose as many players as they did at key positions, like you said, like quarterback especially, D-line, running back, tight end, offensive line, secondary. We kind of went over it last week, just like the skeleton crew that they had on defense in the second half of that game. Like teams that have that many injuries, like they're usually not playing a team like Ohio State in the Fiesta Bowl because they've already lost a bunch. So they're not playing a team that's going to expose every flaw that they have. So in that sense, like they did put themselves in position to get dismantled by a really good team. But to his point, like Brian Kelly said, like team 127 should be proud of what they accomplished. I'm not totally sure what they accomplished other than a double-digit win season. They lost to every good team they played. It's not like they have a conference to win. I guess they're probably a top 20 team. I mean, they beat USC. It wasn't a particularly good USC team this year.
I know what you mean. I see what you mean.
Yeah, so offensively, they did some incredible things. Defensively, they were incredibly underwhelming, if not disappointing. It was a fun team to watch. Like I said, they were likable. There was nothing that I didn't like about them, for the most part, anyway. So yeah, I mean, but it's like I'm not going to think back to 2015. Like, to me, it's just like they just missed an opportunity. I said before, there's just a big missed opportunity for them.
No, I understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah.
So
they had so many good players.
Yeah, they have a ton of good players that were wasted. The opportunity was wasted.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens. Some of it's bad luck. Some of it's bad performance. But that's football, right? That's why we watch.
That's the way it goes.
So I listened to our very first podcast. Some of it. This is some of our very first podcast. You'll be happy to know that we spent the first solid 5 minutes talking about Malik Zaire. And I was the only one to mention just who Deshaun Kaiser was.
Congrats to you.
It's just kind of funny that the thing that we started talking about the most for this Notre Dame team was their new quarterback. We saw him for a game and a half.
A game and a half.
I mean, it seemed to work out okay, but it's just really funny. Like, what you expect to happen is not what happened. So
that is absolutely factually correct, my friend.
Just factually. So I think I'm not trying to to grind something home here, but I think you predicted a 10-0 season for Notre Dame.
Well, undefeated.
Undefeated. That's true. That's right. Undefeated. You predicted an undefeated season for Notre Dame.
Yeah. I mean, I essentially thought they'd be a playoff team.
And I mean, they were right there the whole time.
They were close.
It wasn't like you were way off.
No.
I think I don't remember now, even though I just listened. I probably should have wrote it down. I think I had 2 losses. A Clemson and a stumble. And a bowl game doesn't really count for predictions. So, hey, good job me there. Unlike the rest of our predictions throughout the season, which weren't that good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, are you going to switch gears over to USC?
When we get there. I mean, we got to stay on Notre Dame for now.
Oh, okay.
Try to just get it all jumbled, mushed together here. So
let's get it in there.
When we started everything, I knew Clemson would be good, or I thought Clemson would be good. It was at the very beginning of the season. I thought Clemson would be good. I thought Stanford would be a tough game. But what I didn't really realize for Notre Dame, and good for them, was how tough those mid-tier teams towards the end of the season actually turned out to be. Teams like Navy was really good this year. Temple turned out to be pretty good. Pitt was always around the top 25. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. But I mean, that easy cakewalk of a schedule you kind of see early in the year. It comes out when you actually have to play the games. Like, hey, these are kind of real teams that can beat anyone. And so good job for Notre Dame for hanging W's on them.
No, definitely. I mean, that happens every year, though. Like, people, especially with Navy, like, people always look at Navy like, well, they play Navy. And it's like, okay, well, you look at the bowl game. Like, Pitt played Navy in the bowl, and Navy throttled them. I mean, they're not an easy team to play, as evidenced by, like, every team that has won close against them in the last 10 years, and then the next week has usually lost. So, and then Notre Dame played Navy this year, and then the next week they played USC. Something in the preseason that I was really lamenting, because we all know, like, Notre Dame is like 2-8 the week after Navy in the last 10 years. So,
You lucked into that
yeah,
one, I guess.
yeah. So, yeah. I mean, every year there's always some team that's a little bit better than you think, and it's funny. After the Clemson game, I remember thinking, like, Clemson's not that good. Turns out they are that.
Turns out they haven't lost yet. Yeah, I remember going into the
Yeah,
Clemson game. I'm like, oh man, these guys barely beat. What was it, Louisville? I was like,
yeah,
Clemson can't be that good. Like, this is
yeah.
crazy. Clemson always messes up. So yeah, apparently we don't know what we're talking about with Clemson.
And
But
even funny though, like Brian Kelly on the Showtime show after the game was in the locker room and was just like, look, you guys blew it. Like, you blew this game. You gave it away. Don't ever let this happen again. And they let it happen again twice. But then after the Stanford game, he was just like, he didn't take the same tenor. I mean, obviously, because it's like there's no point in getting on him now. Like, it's over.
Right.
You can't. There's nothing to play for anymore. So, but it was just funny how after they lost by 2 to the best team, it was like, you guys blew this opportunity. I can't believe it. And then after Stanford, it's like, well, you gave it everything you had. And
You tried.
oh, well.
Well, I guess the difference is, they had a chance to win against Clemson, whereas Stanford had to come back to win. Notre Dame was already winning, offensively speaking. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but the real point is what you said. Like, hey, after the Stanford game, it doesn't really matter anymore. Well, he said on the Showtime show too was, they think Ohio State was probably the best team in the nation, is what they thought. I mean, you have to say that, I guess, to get your players pumped up for a meaningless game.
Here's the thing. That might just be true. I mean, let's put it like this. Put it like this. If Ohio State had done their whole schedule and instead switched the Michigan State game to week 3, and then played whatever week 3 team they did at the same time they played Michigan State, like, they probably would have been in the playoff.
Right.
Or at least 2. So, I mean, that's a damn good team.
No, yeah. They definitely are pretty good. And
yeah.
They are definitely one of the best teams in the nation, that's for sure. 1 through 22. Their guys are good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they beat Notre Dame and Michigan by a combined, 86 to 13 plus 28, 41.
That's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Good job, Ohio State.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's crazy that, especially after Alabama throttled Michigan State. Yeah, it's like, okay, maybe the wrong Big Ten team was hanging around.
Yeah. Maybe Ohio State didn't call the best plays in that game there.
According to their running back, they didn't. So, as we wrap things up here on Notre Dame, what do you think of Brian Kelly did, his coaching job throughout the season? If you had to rate it somehow, or give some kind of qualifying terms about his coaching performance.
Well, I mean, to me, he gets. What do I want to give him? Do I want to give him a B+ or an A-? I'm going to give him a B+ because, given that everyone on offense, I mean, think about it. Everyone on the offense who played had either the season that you would have expected or exceeded expectations.
Yeah, he had that thing humming.
There wasn't one player that I could. I mean, maybe Corey Robinson, who was just like an outright disappointment.
But he's like the third wide receiver.
Exactly. So, but even he had the game-winning catch, diving reception against USC. So at least he had his big moment. So in that sense, he did an incredible job, just like getting this team to 10 wins. The reason that I can't give him an A is because he still doesn't know how to score in the red zone, and he still doesn't know when to go for 2. I don't understand it. He went for 2 at the wrong time against Clemson. He went for 2 at the wrong time against Stanford. Like, you're contributing to losses. Is
Yeah,
pretty much what's happening.
you think
And
they'd have like a sheet that tells you like what to do?
yeah, so the one against Clemson is like he just went for two at the wrong time against Stanford. Against Clemson, he should not have gone for two under any circumstances. So
And they probably wasted their good play when they needed it.
right, but I mean, it's like you go for two, you lose by two, and you fail going for two twice in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, you kick two extra points and you're tied. So, so that's why he gets a B+ for me. But overall, I mean, I'm completely happy with the way he coached this year.
I would say that my knock for Brian Kelly is clearly good offensive coach. Like he knows what's going on. But he is the head coach, and we talked about the defense all year long. And at some point, being the man in charge, I think you have to take some responsibility for your defense just being a question mark, and that's kind of on you. But I think the B+ is a very solid grade for Brian Kelly. He earned it with his offensive performance.
Yeah.
But yeah, him not, I know he's not a defensive coach, but like, you gotta do something. I don't know what. But you definitely have to address. I'm sure I'm sure there's stuff in practice that I don't know about, but I just feel like it's like, oh, this is Brian Van Gordon. He's in charge of the defense, not Brian Kelly, not me. Nope.
I guess for me, it's like next year. Like if nothing's different going into next year, then it starts to be like, okay, like now you knew, because the first year it was kind of like they were doing well defensively until people started to get hurt. This year they had pretty much everyone that they needed, and they gave it up against Virginia, they gave it up against UMass in the first half. They gave it up against Clemson. I mean, they gave it up against every team.
Every team they played, I think, scored a long touchdown against them, which is kind of embarrassing.
Well, they gave up 26 drives of 70+ yards for touchdowns this year.
That's really bad.
That's, like I said, in 2012, they gave up one.
Yeah, so that's why I don't give Brian Kelly the full kudos. I think he's the man in charge, so the defense reflects on him.
That that's the second year. So now like, okay, I can't. And he did this with Jalen Smith and Sheldon Day. So it's like, okay,
good players.
Yeah, like I can't expect those guys to leave and then for this to get better magically somehow. So something has to be different. So.
All right.
That's kind of my thing for next year.
Well, fair enough. I think those are all good points. So when we switch the ball over to my team, the USC Trojans, there's a lot that happened this year, man.
You talk about overcoming.
Well, another fun thing when I go back to those first the next 5 minutes of the podcast after the Malik Zaire part was us talking about how Cody Kessler is a Heisman contender and how I believe you used the term "freaked you out" at quarterback with his ability to find open receivers all the time. So the first 10 minutes of our opening podcast are very funny in hindsight.
He freaked me out for other reasons this year.
Yeah, for his inability to manage the 2-minute drill.
Oh man.
All right, so yeah, USC, it was trouble from the start, just right from the start. I mean, Steve Sarkisian got in trouble at the pep rally for cursing, which should have just been an omen for everybody.
Oh, it was an omen. It definitely was. It was.
On the opening podcast, I actually did say that I think Stark's on the hot seat. So that was a smart thing by me to say because he didn't make it through the season. and when your head coach gets fired in the middle of your season, like that's bad news. That is just bad news. But regardless of who the coach was, for me, I just felt like USC underperformed. And I don't know if they played their best. I honestly, with that team, I don't know if they're competing with Ohio State's and Alabama's, but they should be able to compete with Oregon's and Stanford's. Like and Washington's. Like those are schools that they should just beat. And it was there was just so much disappointment and underachievement. I think underachievement is the big word for USC. Like Juju Smith was rolling for a while, and then he got hurt, so that was like the one lone bright spot this season was how many stats he could pile up. And then that kind of stopped towards the end. Like, ugh, I don't know, man. You have any thoughts?
Well, okay, so when looking at the USC season, you kind of have to look at it almost in two ways, right? Like when USC lost to Stanford, at the time, it looked like a terrible loss because Stanford had lost just like 2 weeks before, 16-6 to Northwestern.
Right.
So we thought this was a bad Stanford team.
It's true.
Turns out that's not the case. So, so that loss in and of itself, like if that game took place later in the year, it would have been, almost an accomplishment for SC to hang with them. I mean, because they lost worse in the Pac-12 title game.
Yeah, that game they weren't even in that really.
And SC was like, I mean, they were the clear underdogs, and the fact that they were even in the game was sort of an accomplishment. So, you kind of have to take the first loss as like, okay, then you lose to Washington. And at that point, once Sark gets fired for the reasons that he got fired, like, you say it's, underachieving, but like, I guess you have to think about like, what's their ceiling at that point?
That is true. Like if they lost all their games after that, like it wouldn't have
like
been a giant shock.
It's all in play. Like anything could happen. They could lose, like you said, every single game because it's like it's so dysfunctional. Like we talk about like Notre Dame's injuries and all that, but like those are things that happen, right?
Right.
It doesn't shock your brain. Like you're not like a laughing stock. It's like, oh, another guy got hurt. Well, people get hurt playing football. How many times in the last, 20 years has a coach of a major program like USC gotten fired for being drunk on the sidelines?
In the middle of the season.
In the middle of the season. I can't think of a time.
Yeah, never. I mean, yeah, it's got to be a handful at most.
And you already had 2 losses. So
that's true.
It's like at that point you can almost like I feel like the first 5 games were a disappointment. In the last, I guess 8 games, 9 games, the last 9 games. I mean, you'd have to say we're pretty good given what could have been.
I guess. Then I mean, really, if we're gonna do that, then I guess the first couple games are good too because their coach was out of control, and it's amazing they were even in the Stanford game. It's amazing they even beat Arizona State.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I guess you're right. I guess if we look on the bright side here, is that everything was crazy and good for the Trojans to just not completely fall apart, to be a team.
I think for you, the good news is that. Like, I feel like the season is just like a waste. Like, as soon as the coach gets fired, it's like, okay, for the reasons, it's like, okay, this season's over. Because what are they realistically going to do? You can't just have a situation like that and it's like, okay, we're going to run the table. It's just too much to expect. The good news is that, like, you're losing Sua Cravens. And I think of him much like Jalen, like his career was kind of thrown away.
Yeah.
You never got anything really out of him other than excellent play. But like he didn't bring a big win or a conference title or anything. But you still have Juju. You still have Adoree Jackson. You still have Ronald Jones. Is Justin Davis still playing?
Yep, he comes back.
You still have Justin Davis. So you still have the core of your team. Cody Kessler's leaving, but
yeah,
that might be for
the better. Yeah.
Yeah. So you still have the core. So it's not completely wasted as much as like I feel like Notre Dame's is, because Notre Dame's core is gone.
That is a good point.
They are gone. Gonzo.
I guess you're right. I mean, some other
Yeah,
things.
so I mean,
Yeah, I don't know.
if I was you, I would just be upset because it's just like a wasted year.
Yeah,
And you
no.
knew it was wasted in the 5th game.
Right away, I knew they were.
Yeah.
This thing was. I mean, they had a chance to play get into the Rose Bowl. I guess they've never had that in the last few years. I mean, they've never been in a Pac-12 title game since its inception, so that's fun.
You know what's amazing, Michael,
No,
is
tell me.
if they had found a way to beat Stanford, then they would have gotten that crap Iowa team in the Rose Bowl.
Well, but USC couldn't beat Wisconsin. Well, I guess they would have been pumped up to play in the Rose Bowl. And the coaching staff might have called real plays.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's true. Yeah, they would have got to play Iowa in the Rose Bowl, and they probably would have won. Which is crazy. Which is absolutely crazy. But no, Stanford has Christian McCaffrey, probably the best player in the nation. And
No.
no, not according to the Heisman voters.
No.
Yeah, I know, man. So I mean, there are some injuries too. I guess that's something to think about as I rate the USC season. The offensive line was kind of in shambles. The guys are getting hurt, and the backups weren't playing very well. Even the starters weren't playing that well, to tell you the truth. So how could the backups do well?
Mm-hmm.
And Cody Cuss is a guy that needs time. So that kind of happened. The receivers, weren't as good as we thought they would be. I mean, just the depth, the actual receiver depth. Like, yes, Juju Smith is great. I understand that. Right. But the depth was probably lacking a little bit. And then Stephen Mitchell Jr. got hurt. He was kind of like, at the beginning of the season, their number 2 or slot kind of guy.
Isaac Whitney.
Yeah, Isaac Whitney. That happened. So, I mean, the tight ends got better as the season went on. That was kind of a fun development. So they should be around for next year. I mean, yeah, I guess you're right. I should be a little more. I shouldn't be such an Eeyore over here. Just a little more positive. Could have gone so much worse.
I'm just shining a little bit of light. If I was you, I'd be in the same position. Like I would,
It's like, this sucks. I mean, it does suck. Bitter, like, there's no doubt about that.
But that's why we're dueling. That's why we do it this way, is because like we get the objective point of view.
That is true. That is actually my favorite part about doing this, since this is our season wrap-up show, is that it actually turns out that you're much more positive about my team than I am. And it's the same for me and Notre Dame. We're always like this. We're kind of the sky is falling fans. Like, this is never going to work out. Whatever they're trying isn't going to work. Of course they're going to lose. They're going to blow it. And then the other guy who doesn't even root for the team's like, no, man. You don't know. These guys are going to pull it out. They got a shot. It's kind of funny. Yeah. Because I would have felt like it would have been the other way if we had just like told people like, oh yeah, to be a Notre Dame and SC fan. Like, oh well, these homers are just going to root for their team.
Exactly. Like, no, that's not how it works.
So we're a pretty good pair. It actually worked out really well. I think as the I didn't write it down, so I forgot to do this at the front. There is actually one piece of USC news, since this is the wrap-up show, but we got to give the people the info. USC hired a defensive coordinator. It's their old defensive coordinator, Clancy Pendergrass, who did not even want to be the defensive coordinator. So I'm not very thrilled about that. Like, he as he was getting interviewed, he didn't want to be a college coach. I think he pretty much said it. Like, it wasn't even like it was like, an underlying kind of thing. He's like, I don't really want to be a college coach. And then, as USC was trying to hire him, he interviewed at Oregon just to leverage a little more money out of USC, I think, which is fantastic. Fantastic.
It's so good. It's unbelievable. I don't even know what to say. Like, he doesn't want to be like. There's no way that he's going to be there for more than 1 year.
Oh yeah, he's going to apply for NFL jobs like always.
Absolutely. There's
the first one that comes knocking, he's leaving, right?
No question. No question. It's unbelievable. I can't believe they're doing this. Like, it's almost a comedy.
Yeah, I don't know what they think is like best case scenario. Like the teams weren't even that good when he was the defensive coordinator. It's not like they were, these lights out defenses.
Yeah.
They were fine.
They just didn't. I'm very curious to know, like, who are they gonna get if he didn't do it?
I have no idea. I heard they didn't even talk to the guy from Wisconsin. Like, didn't even bother.
Oh.
The guy who's like, no, I'll be a defensive coordinator anywhere as long as you pay me, because Wisconsin doesn't pay me. And who just shut your team down. Didn't even talk to him. I don't think they talked to anybody. I think they wanted Clancy Pendergrass for some weird reason.
Some stopgap?
I don't know, man. Maybe the defensive coordinator at Western Kentucky isn't very good, so they couldn't get him. So they needed to do something quickly.
Was Clay Helton out of, like, family members or something?
He doesn't have another brother. Maybe his sister that could be the defensive coordinator. It couldn't be worse. But yeah, so USC is a new defensive coordinator that is probably not going to be there for very long, and who isn't happy to have the job.
No.
Recipe for success. Well, I think we covered our individual teams pretty well. So a little fun thing Greg and I wanted to do was some awards for the end of the season. And we have fun categories, and we each picked a player from our respective teams to win the award here. So let me pull it up. And all right. So our very first award is the How Old Is He? Question mark award. And that is for the Freshman of the Year on our respective teams. And at USC, I would be Ronald Jones too. Ronald Jones II is great, but I have to give it to my guy Cam Smith. He was leading the team in tackles, leading the team in interceptions. He starts, and he was a Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Week. He got hurt, but it's Cam Smith, inside linebacker, USC, is my Freshman of the Year for the Trojans.
It's a solid choice. That's what I would have picked as well. I'm going to go with running back Josh Adams for Notre Dame. I was tempted to take the kicker.
Oh, that would have been a good one. He was good.
I was tempted to take a kicker, but he missed an extra point this year, and it's a no. No, I just think that he didn't miss a field goal like after this week 2 or something, but like he didn't win a game or anything like that. He was just solid, and I feel like Josh Adams broke the freshman rushing record at Notre Dame. I feel like if you do that,
that's pretty good.
Be Freshman of the Year. He ran for a bunch of yards and not a lot of carries. He averaged like 7.5 yards a carry. Scored 6 touchdowns. Had a 98-yard touchdown run. I'd say he's a good choice.
I actually like Jerry Tillery because I feel like he got kind of thrown into a bad situation and did okay.
I liked him too, but he got suspended for the bowl game.
That was the knock on him, yes.
I
knew you were going to say that, actually.
And not just that, but if he had only gotten suspended for the bowl game, maybe he would have stayed eligible for it. But he also went to Ireland during the bye week.
That is a little weird.
And it's like, look, man, I'm not your mom. I think that, you go like as your parent, it's probably great that you went to Ireland. As a football fan, like maybe a little bit more football stuff, Rosa.
For sure. All right, award number 2, the Robert Mays Trophy for Lineman of the Year. For the USC Trojans, I give it to Max Turek. He was the best lineman. The second he went down, everything went to hell. There's an easy choice. I mean, there's not even a lot to say. Like you could tell how good he was by how bad everyone else played when he was gone.
Is this on either side, right?
Sure. Why not?
All right, I'm going Sheldon Day.
Okay. It's a much deserved award for Sheldon Day.
And you know what? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think he's a little underrated. I feel like, just like I said Jerry Tillery was put in the bad situation and did pretty well. I feel like Sheldon Day kind of didn't get helped out by anybody either.
Well, it was a tough award to win this year, given Ronnie Stanley on the offensive side. But, I mean, to me, he wins it in the Fiesta Bowl. I mean, he's playing in a game that doesn't matter. He hurt his foot, was limping around. Then the night before, he got sick and was throwing up all over the place. He plays, the same amount of reps that he normally does. Even after Jalen gets hurt and in the second half, look, once Jalen got hurt, this guy's a senior. He's going to the pros. And he's already proven himself this year. He totally didn't have to stay in there. He could have been like, you know what? My foot's really starting to hurt right now, and sat out. He didn't do it. He played into the second half. Credit him. Lineman of the year for me.
I like Sheldon Day. He seems like a good guy.
Yeah.
I actually don't like Ronnie Stanley, so I'm all for your choice.
All right, then. Okay.
All right, next award, the Lance Harbor Memorial Cup, the injury that hurt your team the most. I'm going to go with Max Turek. Again, just like I said for the last award, when he got hurt, the offensive line just went to garbage, and it's just evident that they really needed him to shore things up, and Cody Kessler needs all the time he can get. And without Max Turek, time was limited, to say the least. For Notre Dame?
I'm going to say Jerron Jones.
That's what I thought, too.
Nose tackle. Yeah, it's a big problem. Big problem. I think an underrated one that I almost gave because I wanted to highlight it was freshman Sean Crawford at corner. He tore his ACL in fall camp. And
I couldn't remember his name when we were doing the wrap-up.
Yeah, he'd won his...
I forgot about him.
He'd won his the nickel spot. And I think a lot of him, honestly, I feel like he would have had a better season than Kafari Russell. But I think Jerron Jones on the defensive line, it's just hard to replace someone like that. They never got the pass rush up the middle like they would have wanted. Other guys filled in okay, but it's just, you got to be solid up front, and he wasn't. Especially up the middle.
He had a big play in the Fiesta Bowl, too.
He did, and that just kind of illustrates. Could a play like that have been made on the final drive against, Stanford or something? Something like that.
For sure. All right, next award, the Shane Falco Award for Best Backup. I actually had a lot of trouble with this one because I kind of didn't think USC had a lot of depth at any particular position. So I went with Porter Gustin. I felt like he got some sacks when he was in there. He had a big sack, I think, against Stanford. He played really well against Utah, if I recall correctly. Maybe it was Washington. I don't know. But when Porter Gustin got in there, he made some plays. He doesn't really have a position. I think he's some kind of defensive linebacker mismatch. He's a freshman, so I liked him. I liked Porter Gustin was my choice.
Yeah. I'm just going to say Deshaun Kaiser, and then we can move on.
That one speaks for itself?
Yeah.
You know what's funny? Is I didn't even think of that. When I was going through my head, I wonder who Greg would pick. Didn't even think of Deshaun Kaiser.
Yeah.
All right, number 5, the Sports Center play of the year. My favorite play was Adoree Jackson's punt return against UCLA. Special teams plays are always fun. They actually beat UCLA this year. It was an integral part of the game. So, Adoree Jackson's punt return against UCLA.
I'm going to say...
this one's probably pretty obvious, everyone.
Will Fuller beating Adoree Jackson on the first play of the game.
That was your favorite?
That was my favorite.
That hurts.
I could have gone with any number of Will Fuller plays.
Beating people.
Against Virginia, for example, twice against Temple. But I think that, it's the team MVP voted by at the banquet for Notre Dame against the team MVP of USC voted at the banquet. And Notre Dame's guy just
kills him.
Destroyed him. That's never happened. When is the last time that happened? Like never.
Yeah, thanks.
So, yeah. So I mean, that's for me. I'm giving him the nod.
All right, next up are the Andy Reid honors. That is for coaching gaffe of the year. We kind of actually hinted at both of our choices during the podcast today on the retrospective. And mine was just the whole game plan against Wisconsin. It was garbage. I know it's kind of a cop-out, but it was just such a lackluster way to end the year with just those terrible, terrible offensive plays. Even the trick play was stupid, and Wisconsin saw it coming. Like, it's just the whole Wisconsin game plan for me is coaching gaffe of the year. Notre Dame's?
You think that I'm going to say Brian Kelly and his 2-point conversions.
I do.
Here's why it's not that.
Oh.
It's because every 2-point conversion, even though they're not being called at the same time, they can still be converted. And, like, the one that against Clemson, like, they shouldn't have done it, but they had wide open Corey Robinson who dropped it. So it still could have been converted. So I'm going to go with a season-long coaching gaffe, which is Brian Van Gorder and his ridiculous zone blitz scheme that had Sheldon Day in coverage, their best pass rusher, and their second-best pass rusher, Romeo Okwara, dropping back on 13 of 24 Stanford pass attempts.
God,
Over
that's
half,
awful.
Michael. Over
That's so
half.
bad.
Can't happen. I give it to Brian Van Gorder. Congrats to you. You don't know what you're doing.
All right,
I got another stat for you.
All right, I love stats.
On that note, Jalen Smith, most athletic, terrorizing linebacker in college football, 1 quarterback sack, the same amount of quarterback hurries as Joe Schmidt.
Wasn't the quarterback sack in like the first game too?
First game.
Which is even worse. It's not like it happened in the middle of the season where it's like, oh, I guess they don't blitz them a lot. It's like, nah, we just never did it again.
Ridiculous. All right, we can move on.
Next on the docket, this is the Trojan horse for the GOAT of the season, not the greatest of all time. The one person you want to blame the bad things that happened this season on. And mine, I think, is very obvious. It's Pat Hayden, who is clearly the worst manager and athletic director in all of college football, who doesn't interview people, who doesn't like to leave the office, I guess, to go find candidates, who hires people with questionable personal issues, hires coaches before they really show themselves. Just Pat Hayden, everybody, the GOAT of this USC Trojan season.
The GOAT of the season. I'm going to give. Man, it's hard for me not to give it to Brian Van Gorder again. The GOAT of the season. I'm going to give it. I don't know this one. This is great radio or podcasting.
I'll tell you who I gave it to. For one person, who I was thinking about Notre Dame and what went wrong. Corey Robinson for his terrible game against Clemson. That could change everything.
I mean, I guess what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to think of someone other than Joe Schmidt.
I also thought you might choose that person.
I guess I have to give it to him because, I mean, he kind of was. I mean, he was everyone's foil for sure. I mean, the poor kid, 65 tackles, playing every snap at middle linebacker. It's just not good enough. It's just not. And he's on the Showtime show. That was like the best thing he's done all year. Yeah, I mean, you got to give it to him.
I'm okay with that.
I guess he played great in the Fiesta Bowl, but
too little, too late.
Too little, too late. Yeah.
All right. So next up, the Matt Saracen Award for a player who needs to improve the most for next year. For the USC Trojans, I gave it to a guy who will not even be practicing in the spring, Mr. Adoree Jackson. Something we kind of touched on a lot at the end of the season was how good of a corner is Adoree Jackson really? And something we touched on throughout the season is he probably needs to help the offense a little more since he's very good when the ball is in his hands. So, Mr. Jackson, I think you need to work on your overall game, and you could really help this team.
The correct answer is Notre Dame middle linebacker Niles Morgan.
I wrote down. I had some notes for what Greg couldn't say, and I was like, any Notre Dame linebacker.
The correct answer is Niles Morgan. You couldn't start over Joe Schmidt, and there's no one else to do it, really. I mean, I guess they could throw someone in there, but it's the time now. Like, you need to figure it out. You need to know the defense. You need to make plays. There's no more Jalen. It's time.
It's time. All right, now we're down to the big ones, the big awards. Number 9, or next one up, the Alvin Mack Trophy for Defensive Player of the Year. For the USC Trojans, obviously, Stuart Cravens. I mean, he went pro. He's going to be a first-round pick. He was probably the only good player on the defense after Cam Smith went down. And it was just easy. He actually didn't – I don't really remember him having that many great plays, to tell you the truth. But he had a lot of solid plays, and he was always in there. He was the leader of the defense. So, Stuart Cravens, you are the Alvin Mack Trophy winner for the USC Trojans.
I mean, you just described Jalen Smith.
That is true.
I mean, it's the same guy.
I kind of wonder if anyone knows who Alvin Mack is. People are going to get that reference.
That's such a good point. Such a good point.
So, yeah, Jalen Smith, he'll be another first-round pick on defense. Deservedly so for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Mm-hmm. All right, here we go. Touchdown Jesus, the Offensive Player of the Year for the USC Trojans. Another obvious one, Juju Smith-Schuster. He was their best offensive player. The first half of the season, he was lighting the world on fire. No one could guard him. He got a little hurt, but he still hung in there, had some big plays. And, his quarterback turned out wasn't, all that great or locked onto him way too many times. And I think it's, he had coaching changes. Juju Smith-Schuster, the most consistent offensive player, the best offensive player.
I mean, I have to go Will Fuller.
You have to.
Yeah. I mean, he's a stud.
For cite every podcast before this.
Yes. Cite all of it.
All of it.
He's a star.
He is. So hopefully he does well in the pros.
Hopefully, yes.
Hopefully for him. Speaking of Jalen Smith, his knee surgery went well, by the way. That's what I'm hearing. Is no nerve damage, so he should have
no nerve damage. That's the big one.
A full recovery, and we wish him the best. He's a great player.
Absolutely, no question.
All right, the last one, the MVP. Another reference no one's probably going to get. The Paul Crew MVP trophy. For USC, I give it to my favorite Trojan, Juju Smith-Schuster. Same as above. He was my favorite to watch. He tried to fight people. He was always fired up. He always brought it. He was, just a consistent player in a inconsistent season.
Well, this is going to be boring because I'm going to give it to two people. First, I'm going to give it to Will Fuller.
Just because you like him.
I do love him. I mean, he was the best player on their team this year, no question. And the second MVP goes to my friend and cohort Michael Muto for putting the podcast together. Our inaugural season, all the editing, hocus pocus, and all that. So I give it to you, my friend. Well done this year.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's my pleasure to do it. It's actually really fun. This is a lot more rewarding than I thought it'd be. I thought it'd be just two friends just chatting it up over the phone. But there's a lot more that goes on, and I really appreciate it. I love doing it, and I couldn't have a better partner to do it with.
Lots of fun.
Thank you, Greg. I think that's a good place to say sayonara. We're gonna have updates. It's probably not gonna be weekly anymore because it would just be boring to hear Greg and I talk to each other about nothing. Yeah. So the best one for sure will come back for signing day. There may be something in between, but for sure we'll come back for signing day. Spring practices will be there. We'll try to have some fun stuff over the summer every now and then, just so you don't forget about us. So that means you have to subscribe on iTunes, everyone. If you think this is fun, if you like us, go to iTunes, subscribe to the podcast, because there will be updates throughout the spring and summer. What else do we are on Twitter. There's an NFL podcast that's still going. They have all your NFL playoff needs. They break the games down really well. So check them out. They're the Tiltingground NFL podcast. The Twitter page has all the updates for the website. Any new articles, any new podcasts go up. I have my own podcast that I kind of started, the Tiltingground with Michael Muto. I think I'm going to have Greg on to talk about Kobe at some point, because that's what we talk about when we don't talk about USC and Notre Dame football. So that's not the last you'll hear of us. And Greg, what's your Twitter if you want to follow Greg and as he gets mad when recruits decommit throughout the off season?
I'm at Greg2126, and the off season is when I shift from being the pessimist to the optimist. So you're going to hear a lot about how the 2016 Team 128 is going to be like the next rendition of 95 Nebraska. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
I love it. I think that. Oh, we have a Facebook page too. I will constantly update the Facebook page with Notre Dame and USC stories. So we have all your updating news for both teams there. That's Tiltingground, Notre Dame, USC on Facebook. And that's it. Thank you, everyone, for listening. It's been a blast, and I can't wait to keep doing this. Fight on.
Go Irish.